Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Streakers Island Podcast. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed analyst. We also have Mr. More for Your Money 4K version, Dan Moore. And I just got to say, Dan, you are looking so good. I feel like I'm going to through the screen and sit on your lap and call you Santa. And of course, we have the man who looks like he's ready for a vacation, Chazzy, the CEO.
No, he's on the island, blow.
Silver anniversary, don't they call
he's living it.
Now, Chazzy, I feel honored that you remembered our anniversary. Like, no wonder why you have such a good marriage, because you remember anniversaries. That's the important thing. That's why Dan and I aren't married, because we would have forgot. But you know what we haven't forgotten? Talking about the NHL standings tonight, we're going to get into that. We're getting to some NFL news, including quarterbacks on the move, and the Aaron Rodgers picture is getting a little clearer, or worse for him. OHL Playoff Series Breakdown. Bry Pup comes in with his top playoff series.
Bry Pup.
Who is the best running back in the CFL? We're going to discuss that and so much more. But let's get into the NHL standings. And before we can do that, I think we have to discuss what happened on Wednesday night between the Canucks and the Islanders. I already thought the Islanders were going to get this one done, and they fell short. The real surprise was Sorokin had a really bad game.
Terrible. Like Joseph Wall, terrible.
He allowed 4 goals on 19 shots, and 2 of them he should have had at least. Vancouver, though, I wouldn't say played that well. Demko bailed them out in this one, and I think that's got to be an exciting sight if you're a Canucks fan, seeing Demko looking like the Thatcher Demko of old, making 26 saves for the victory. And not just the saves, it was the quality of saves. He made a lot of really big saves in that one. Also, big shout out to Kiefer Sherwood. He had a very nice game for them with 2 goals, 1 assist, 4 shots on net. I think, he's a guy that really stepped up in this game with no Pettersson, no Höglander. You know what? They need some role players to get the job done, and he got the job done. But Dan, I think you wanted to say something.
I was surprised how many A-quality chances the Islanders got, because I give them a lot of credit, because they did trade away Blockbuster and they were sellers on the deadline, and here they are, like dogfighting for our last playoff spot, and they got some A-plus quality chances. I was shocked, and you don't realize how good Andrews Lee is until you watch like a full-blown game. But if he wasn't on the Islanders, he would be in conversation as one of the best power forwards in the league. Wow, he's a good player.
And I think with the Islanders, you are never going to see them stop working. And with a team that works that hard and they have enough skill to get by, they're always going to be in that playoff hunt. If you give this Islander team one more really good player, they're definitely a playoff team, hands down. Probably easily. It's kind of like when we lost Jordan Eberle. That was the one piece that they had that kind of took them over that edge. And now they don't have it anymore. But give the Canucks credit where credit was due. They absolutely had to have this win to stay alive in the playoff race, and they got it done. And you know what? Now they've won 2 straight. They're only 3 points back of the Blues for the last wild card spot, and they did what they needed to do. So give the Canucks credit, right? They're finding ways to win games. They have points in 6 of the last 10 games, have won 5 of the last 10, which 5 of the last 10 isn't great, but they're on a 2-game winning streak.
Considering being on a road a lot
together, they do have a chance. It's going to be hard to catch the Blues right now because the Blues are really hot. We're going to get into the wild card race a little more because I have a bit of a crazy theory. You guys are probably going to think I deserve my own clown book for it. But one thing that you guys felt I deserved the clown book for last episode was when I said the Los Angeles Kings could catch the Edmonton Oilers. I'd like you guys to go on NHL.com/standing/2025-03-26/wildcard.
I wasn't part of that conversation.
And you will see.
More?
And we see you crystal clear now. You'll see the LA
You can't hide.
have now jumped ahead of the Edmonton Oilers on a 4-game winning streak. They've won 9 of the last 10. Now, mind you, at the time we're recording, Edmonton is playing Dallas. Who knows? Maybe Edmonton wins this game and they go back and they would actually still be behind the Kings technically because they would have played one more game. But
Dallas is up 1-0 at the moment.
But
do the Kings catch Vegas?
Whoa,
that's going to be tough because Vegas is also hot. They've won 4 straight. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10. That's going to be a tough one to do because the Kings would need to continue to excel and the Knights would need to fall. So that's a tough one, but I'm not going to say no yet.
Wow.
Right? They're only 5 points behind with a game in hand.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Anything's possible when Timothy goes to school, and buses were canceled this week. So, hey, it's possible, right? But, Chazzy, I want to ask you this because you haven't got to talk much, and we're 6 minutes in. I'm sorry. We've just been so excited about how
it
looks.
Oh,
but
basking in the sun.
I'm gorgeous.
The LA Kings keep losing.
William Nylander, they're gorgeous.
The LA Kings keep losing to the Edmonton Oilers. If they could get home ice in the playoffs, do you think this could maybe give them the edge? They're a much better home team than a road team.
I know we're going to get into it later, but the Oilers may not be the same team facing a different, faster Kings, right? So, and they've been on the losing end, three of the 4 last on the losing end against the Oilers 3 of the last 4 years. So, look out for a motivated Kings, and if they continue to be hot going into the playoffs, Edmonton's got their hands full, especially if they're not 100% healthy.
And, a guy that's been a big part of it for the Kings, and, I don't know if we get into it fully this week, but at some point I want to, is Darcy Kuemper. Darcy Kemper's been phenomenal for this team. I would argue one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And he has been the missing piece for the Kings, right? And I think that's going to be the big difference. That's no disrespect to any goaltending they've had in the past, but I think this could be the difference maker because it looks like we're going to get that again in the first round between LA and Edmonton.
What a series.
What a series that could really be. But another thing I'm surprised about is we got to thought the Dallas Stars are kind of locked up second in the Central. Now, mind you, they have 2 games in hand. They played 2 less games than the Avs, but the Avs are only 3 points behind them. They're 8-1-1 of their last 10. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Now, the Stars are 6-2-2 in their last 10 on a 2-game winning streak. The Central is a very good division. Now, again, that could change depending on what happens with the Oilers game as we're recording, but I could potentially see Colorado having a shot at catching Dallas.
Yeah.
They're the hottest
down the stretch,
down the stretch. They're one of the hottest teams in the NHL. I think I'm not saying they're going to do it, but I'm not saying they won't do it.
Dallas is up 2-0 at the moment.
But I mean, when we look at Colorado's schedule coming up, they got the Kings, Blues, and Flames to finish off the month. Let's be honest, those 3 games, all 3 of them are very winnable. I mean, the Kings will be a tough match, and the Flames have been hot, and so have the Blues, but they're teams that the Avs are expected to beat. Then to start April, you face the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets back-to-back.
Right.
So if let's say hypothetically in those 5, you can win 4. Which I'm not,
but arguably, look at Dallas's schedule. It's sort of the same sort of tempo.
I mean, and Dallas is a very good team, although I will say I was surprised that Ottinger has not been as strong as he has been other years. And yeah, Dallas, they're playing Edmonton currently. They play Calgary Thursday night. Then they got Seattle on the 29th and 31st to close the month, right?
So this is pretty much home ice advantage. Whoever finishes in the division.
Basically, whoever can almost run the table for the end of this division, end of the month between those 2 teams and next month will probably get home ice. And I'm saying they're almost going to have to run the table. Like in the last 12 games, you probably got to win 8 or 9. If you're Dallas, if you're Colorado, in your last 10 games, you probably got to win 9 of them to have a shot.
You got to be almost perfect. Yeah.
Almost perfect. So I'm not saying they're going to do it, but I'm not saying it's impossible. And I'm surprised to see the way Colorado is really. And remember, we were talking, is this team even going to make the playoffs at one point?
I'm not surprised after the trade deadline. They've been the most busiest at the trade deadline. They arguably got one of the biggest pieces in Brock Nelson. Getting Coyle was a very nice addition. No one talked about winning Johnson back and won the Stanley Cup. Veteran defenseman, great move. Like Colorado had the weaknesses with GM took notice and made something happen. Now maybe they'll be screwed in the next 10 years if they don't have a draft pick anymore. But let's not talk about that right now. Right now, they are incredible. They kind of need and they fixed it. So.
They're a cup contender.
So
I would say
the next 9 because they're a whole different team.
And I would say though, Dan, I would even go back to before the deadline was when the goaltending was terrible and they addressed it.
Yeah.
They didn't wait until the deadline. And I think that's a big issue where just, not that this is on the script, but I also like to keep you guys on your toes. I look at a team like Pittsburgh. And if Pittsburgh maybe went and fixed the goaltending issue 3 months ago, they might be fighting for a playoff spot right now. So they still have a lot of very talented players.
Well, what else do you expect from Doofus?
But I mean, that was the one piece that team desperately needed, and they just stuck with Tristan Jarry. Where you look at Colorado, the goaltending was terrible. Georgiev was not getting the job done, so they went out and brought in 2 good goalies in Blackwood and Wedgwood. Yeah. They brought in 2 guys that they know they're going to get saves from, and that was a huge difference maker for them. So I got to give Colorado a lot of credit. And to tell you one thing, that Dallas-Colorado series is going to be a heck of a series.
Yeah, definitely going at 7.
But let's move on now to more of the East battles here. I mean, the Metropolitans, it's sorted, so let's not even talk about it. But the Atlantic, Toronto Maple Leafs, they are win over the Flyers, which, I mean, okay, they beat the Flyers. They're still only 5-5 in the last 10. But they have now jumped the Panthers to first in the Atlantic.
Wow.
Which, that's big. I really feel winning this division is so important for any of these 3 teams. Mm-hmm. Between the Leafs, Panthers, and Lightning, all of them desperately want to win that division to avoid having to play one of the other 2 teams out of this top 3.
Because right now, this spot you get Ottawa,
which that's no disrespect to Ottawa. A lot of these guys do not have playoff experience. It's in theory is an easier ride than facing someone in that top 3 in the Atlantic. Reason why I say in theory is because I think Ottawa is a team that's built for playoff hockey. Now, the crazy thing is, though, we've talked
dangerous. They're a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Yeah. And, we've talked about how Ottawa is a team that we think could give a team a run for their money.
100%.
And let's be honest, too, Leaf fans would be terrified to face Ottawa. Because if you lose to Ottawa in the first round, you're never going to hear the end of it.
Well, we're not going to lose, though.
Do you lose 2 of your studs of the 4 you got to resign, or do you only let one of them walk?
I mean,
both walk at that point.
You know my opinion on that. If they don't make it to the conference finals, you let both of them walk, unless Tavares is willing to sign at a very team-friendly contract. We'll get more into that in another 1v1 coming up in the episode. But yeah, the Leafs have done what they've needed to do, and they've jumped the Panthers. And let's actually take a look at the wild card race in the East, and then we'll head to the West, since we're already in the East right now.
Wow.
The Islanders really suffered from losing that game to the Canucks and not even pushing it to overtime. I called that to be an overtime game. They didn't get the job done.
Yeah, but they got robbed. They got robbed the other night.
They did. That goalie interference call, I'm still rattled about that on a personal level. Like, I don't know how you'd call that goalie interference. It's just bluntly not goalie interference. And if the Islanders miss by 1 point, everyone's going to come back and look at that and look at that call. There's no doubt in my mind about it. But I will give the Islanders credit for this. They're battling. Yeah, they're 4-3-3 in their last 10. So you look, they've only won 4 games in their last 10. Or you look at it, in the last 10 games, 7 of them, they came away with at least 1 point. Right? Finding ways to get points and kind of clawing back in the battle. Versus you look at Montreal, sorry, Chazzy, but they've slowed down a little bit at 4-2-4. But again, you could say out of their last 10 games, 8 of them, they've got at least 1 point. These are teams that are battling really hard versus a team like the Rangers at 3-6-1. They've really fallen off the deep end. Blue Jackets at 2-7-1. They've really fallen off the deep end. Red Wings 3-7. Like, it's really starting to become, I would really say, a 2-team race for that final wild card, unless the Rangers can wake up and smell the coffee again. Because the way the Rangers are playing right now, they're not a playoff team.
Wow. Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, because they're playing so good.
Fire here. What do we got? 10 games left. catch fire down the
And
stretch.
that's the thing. You got 10 games left. Montreal's got 12. And Montreal can continue to just keep clawing and getting points.
Yeah, I think it's 2 games advantage is a big
With
help.
that 2 games advantage, that's a huge help for them, right? And I feel the same.
Yeah, big one against Philly tomorrow. So
Right.
And let's be honest, with
Right.
Montreal, that should be a win.
Oh, I would think so.
I know, Chazzy, does Montreal have a hard schedule coming down the road here? Like, what's it
I think
looking
the
like?
last time we looked, it was mediocre. They do have some. Yeah, they got the Panthers, Hurricanes coming up. They got back-to-back Panthers. You got the Leafs again. You got the Sens. Then you go to the end of the Hurricanes may not have their top lineup out by the end of the season, but yeah, they're about 50-50.
So, and I think the Islanders, if memory serves me right, which I can pull it up, but I'm pretty sure they have a bit of a harder schedule than.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can stay above 500 here and no one goes off the board, we should be.
Because I'm even just looking at the Islanders schedule quick, and coming up, you got the Lightning, Hurricanes, Lightning again, Wild, Washington, and then finally the Predators. You look, your next 5 to 6 games are all against playoff teams.
Yeah.
5 out of your next 6 are against playoff teams. And then after you finally get a break when you get to face the Predators, then you're facing the Islanders for your last game of the year, right? So, not last game, but coming down the stretch.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're the Islanders, I agree, they have a much harder schedule than the Canadians coming down the stretch. They're basically may only face 3 non-playoff teams over their last 11 games.
But we need to pick up points tomorrow night. Not saying the Flyers are still a great team, but we need to pick up non-playoff teams. We need to pick up those points.
Oh, Montreal has to beat Philly. The only thing is, though, let's be honest, Philly's going to be really pissed after losing to Toronto.
Anytime they lose, they're always.
And if you're Montreal, though, you got Philly, Carolina, and Panthers.
So we just got our butts kicked by the Blues, so we'll be motivated than anything.
That's true, yeah.
Over your you got 3 games and 4 nights coming up, and 2 of them are against really good teams. You have to beat the Flyers because you're in jeopardy of losing both of those games against the Hurricanes and the Panthers. I'm not saying you will, but you're in jeopardy. Those are 2 very good teams.
Yeah, if you can take one of those 2, yeah.
And that's where you could potentially see the Islanders, if they can somehow come away with wins against the Lightning and the Hurricanes, which, again, those are tough teams, and that's a back-to-back situation. But if they can somehow at least come away with points, they have a chance to really catch Montreal here this weekend.
Let's come back to that 3-point system and separate them a little bit more.
Way better. So I'm going to ask you, Jacob. I asked you this question off camera. You didn't really give me a straight answer. So I'll put you on the spotlight right now, live. After watching the Islanders lose the Canucks tonight, and now you realizing a tough schedule, I guess that's why you didn't give me an answer before. Do you think the Islanders are now done?
No.
What?
I do not, because I feel they played a good game. They just lost.
They did, yeah.
You can play well and lose. I'm calling out the Rangers if they don't win both their games coming up on the weekend against the Ducks and the Sharks. I think they're done.
Yeah.
Because you look over the last 5 games, only have 1 win. That's just unacceptable if you're the Rangers. You have to find a way to get points. And if you don't get points, realistically, you should beat the Ducks and the Sharks very easily. So if you don't get those wins, I think I'm going to start to write off the Rangers. I'm not writing off the Islanders just yet. The Islanders you guys could laugh at me. They're a special group, and they find ways to get points. Look over their last 7 games with at least a point, right? And that's the difference versus you look at the Rangers over their last 10. They only have 1 less win than the Islanders over their last 10, but only have points in 4 out of those 10 games.
Right.
That's the difference. And again, this is where the 3-point system would be more effective.
Yeah.
Because teams like Montreal and the Islanders are basically pulling away by losing in overtime.
Right.
Right? And again, hey, it's the system right now. Do it.
Can't beat them, join them.
But no, I'm writing off the Rangers, Jackets, and Red Wings right now. I don't see they're playing bad.
Yeah.
And like when I watch the Islanders and I watch the Canadians, they're both playing well. They're playing hard. When I watch the Rangers, I want to put my head in the sand like I'm an embarrassed ostrich. Same with the Blue Jackets, same with the Red Wings. The Boston Bruins, as a Leaf fan, I'm ecstatic to see them play this terrible. Pittsburgh, they don't have any goaltending, right? So it's really, in my opinion, for the last, I would say 3 wild card spots, because Ottawa's, they're a streaky team. They could fall apart. There's 3 teams going after those 2 spots.
Yeah.
Ottawa's pulling away, but it's not impossible that they could fall off. Montreal could potentially catch Ottawa still, because again, they're finding ways to get points.
That's crazy.
But no, the way the Rangers are playing and the Jackets and the Wings, I don't see it. Especially the Rangers too. They only have 10 games left, where the Canadians have 12 and the Islanders have 11.
Wow.
Right? I am curious, Dan, about your opinion on this, though. Do you think I'm out to lunch by writing off those 3 teams at this point?
I think you're accurate. I gotta say, though, I am really disappointed with Detroit. I thought this was the year that they might have pulled away. Like Lucas Swayman and Derek Larkin have all those years under their belt now. Patrick Kane's at the end of their career. I feel like this was kind of the year they should have made it, and they didn't. It's just kind of never mediocre season like we've done in past, like, I don't know, 10, 8 plus years. I'm like, just play with them. Columbus, you can't really fault Columbus. They're in a very difficult situation. And I think considering how difficult of a situation it is, they lost their franchise player and had to replace him with JVR. No disrespect to JVR, but now this is his point of his career. It's not quite a replacement. I think considering all those things, the fact that Columbus has made it this far with 72 games in, you got to give them a lot of respect for that. I think they'll have a big offseason next year. I could see Detroit starting maybe sell at the draft and bring in some new big names and rebuild. When it comes to the Rangers is the wild card in this series of the 3, in my opinion. Because going into the season, we all thought the Rangers were a very good team. Then, for whatever reason, they decided to trade for captain franchise defenseman. I think it's because they want to hand Sorokin $12 million. And not Sorokin.
Shesterkin.
Thank you, Shesterkin. $12 million. I don't think he's a $12 million goalie. Then to top it all off, you add they got involved in winning Miller, which I think Miller was a nice save for the Trouba mistake. I just think it was a little too late. I think if they traded Miller back in January when we were talking about it for Sabatev, I think if they got Miller a little bit earlier, I think the Rangers would be in a wild card spot now. I think that's how close it was. But I think, unfortunately, that trade just came a little too late. So that's kind of the one I'm looking into it. I'm like, I think it's an epic fail because they're expected to do. Some people are arguing Rangers can make a big run this year into the playoffs at the beginning of the year, and now they're not even making the playoffs. I'm like, so I think Detroit's kind of mediocre fail. Rangers are the epic fail, and Columbus is a success story, as crazy as that.
Yeah, I agree with you on Columbus 100%. They weren't expected to be any good, and right down the stretch, even now, as much as I'm saying I don't think they're going to do it, they're only 2 points out. They have a fighting chance.
Yeah.
What I do want to say about the Red Wings, though, and out of these, I was kind of just thinking on the spot here. Out of the 3 teams that I've written off, Detroit, I think, has the best chance of proving me wrong.
Ooh.
Only because to close out the month, you got Ottawa on Thursday night, and then you got the Bruins. You win both of those games, right? Especially beating Ottawa, you're right back in it. Then to start April, you got the Blues, right? So let's say you can win all 3 of those matchups. They got to go on a bit of a streak. Then you put yourself back in a position where you got a shot, but then to close the month, your schedule is a nightmare.
So
you would then the Canadians and the Panthers again, then the Lightning, then the Stars and the Devils and the Leafs. They have a nightmare last 2 weeks of the NHL. I think they need to go on a 5-game winning streak now. They got to win their next 4 or 5 games and then pray that they can continue to stay hot and only lose maybe 2 of those last games in the last 2 weeks.
So would you prefer to have Detroit in the wild card versus a team like the Islanders of Montreal?
No, I want Montreal. Truthfully, I'm sorry, Leaf Nation. I want Montreal and Ottawa. I'm a Canadian at heart.
Me too, 100%.
Teams. My next pick would be the Islanders because I love the Islanders. And then I'd rather see the Red Wings in over the Rangers. Blue Jackets, I'm in the same about the Red Wings. I'd love to see one of those 2 teams. If it is in Ottawa or Montreal, I'd love to see either the Islanders, Blue Jackets, or Red Wings. I've never really particularly liked the Rangers. I think Karma's a lovely lady, and if you don't take her out to dinner every now and then you get screwed by it. And I think the Rangers have been screwed by Karma. But I want to get into the West because we've been talking for a while. And Chazzy needs milk soon, but we can't go to a break just yet. I want your reactions here because I didn't put this in the script, but I want your reactions.
Whoa.
The Minnesota Wild could miss the playoffs.
No.
I'm going to tell you why.
No. Tell me why. Ain't nothing.
So, do you remember about 3 months ago, they were fighting for the top of the Pacific. At one point, they were as good as Winnipeg. They are now at 85 points in the wild card race. The Blues have 83 as the second wild card team. The Canucks have 80 and the Flames have 79. The Flames have points in 8 of their last 10 games on a 4-game winning streak. Had an awesome road trip. The Vancouver Canucks are 5-4-1 in their last 10, 2-game winning streak, getting it done without 2 of their best players, plus Thatcher Demko's back. The Blues are 8-1-1 in their last 10, 7-game winning streak. Wow. The Wild are 4-5-1 on a 2-game losing streak. This team has completely fallen apart.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is very possible. Also, too, to close out this month, you got the Caps, Devils, and Devils. Those are 3 playoff teams. Then right after that, you face the Rangers and Islanders, are 2 teams that are desperate for points. If the Wild continue to fall apart, the Wild could be out of the wild card.
I think the Wild. Sorry.
I truly believe that the Wild could fall out of this. Because if you look, too, they just lost 5-1 to the Golden Knights, 3-0 to the Stars. Then they had a little 3-game winning streak, but then they lost 5-1 to the Blues. Rangers was 3-2 in overtime, but they lost 3-1 to the Penguins, 3-1 to the Canucks. You're looking when they're losing pretty badly. This team is not playing well. They're not playing good hockey. And I don't care when it's because Kaprizov's been hurt. I don't care. Good teams find ways to win even when their best players are out. Yeah. Right? And I just don't feel the heart in this team, and I could legitimately see them make the playoffs. Okay, Dan, my rant's done. Go ahead. I'm
sorry. I feel bad. I was going to say, I think we haven't really talked about much of this on the island yet, but I think all the drama in New Jersey with playoff attitude and the coaching and the players and all that, I think the Wild could beat New Jersey back-to-back. I can get them back on track.
And see, I personally think when I look at those next 3 games from the Wild, I think they're going to lose to the Caps and lose back-to-back games against the Devils.
Lose both. Wow.
They're going to lose both. They're going to extend this losing streak to 5, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Chazzy, do you think I'm crazy, or do you think I'm on to something that the mainstream sports channels won't talk about?
No, quite possible. I didn't realize. If Calgary wins those games in hand, they're now with the Blues with a game in hand, and now you got Minnesota coming back down the line, and those 2 are going up the line. So it could, and then you got Vancouver right as well nipping. I think anything under that, so it is quite possible.
Now, mind you, Calgary's got a hard schedule. They got the Stars up next, then the Oilers, then the Avs for their next.
Calgary's got 2 games in hand,
They got 2 games in hand. And they've been finding ways to get points. If you can continue to get points, this is the same thing we talked about with the Islanders and the Canadians. But let's say you're able to get points in all 3 of these games. You're able to maybe you beat the Oilers and you take the Stars and Avs to overtime, all of a sudden, then you got Utah and the Ducks as your 2 games starting in April.
Yeah.
You can take the Golden Knights to overtime, and then you go against the Sharks and the Ducks and beat them, and then you play the Wild. Like, you look at the Calgary Flames, and all of a sudden they're pushing themselves back in this playoff race.
And Edmonton's been struggling lately too, so if they can beat Edmonton.
Well, yeah, we look at Edmonton, and I mean, without Draisaitl and McDavid, this team just cannot score the same level. Which, I mean, it makes sense. They're 2 of their best players, but I'll say the same thing I said about the Wild. You got to find ways to get it done. So, no, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it is very possible that the Wild could slip out. Now, for teams that I would be eliminating out of my race here, unfortunately, I am now calling it for the Utah Hockey Club. I think they're done.
Wow.
They just have not been good enough of late. 75 points, so they're 8 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, no way.
They're not catching the Blues or the Wild, and I don't even think they're going to catch the Canucks or the Flames. Utah's just lost too many important games. I think this team's got a bright future.
Oh, yeah.
What really killed them, too, was losing when they lost that 5-1 game to Detroit. And I know it sounds weird. That's not a big game in the standings, but that's a team that you're expected to beat if you're trying to fight for a playoff spot. You needed that win desperately, and you just didn't get it.
Yeah, especially the way they lost, too. 5-1. It wasn't even close.
Like, Chazzy, what do you think? You've been very quiet. I guess you're just glorying in the sunlight on the island. Do you think I'm out to lunch with some of my takes here?
No, that's why I'm not talking, because I do agree with you, and you're not out to lunch at all. So
that's a very good thing, because it is currently 11:48 at night. I'm very glad I'm not having lunch. But it's one of these things here when I'm looking here, and I think there's a very good chance the Wild could slip. And I'm going to say this: if the Wild don't make the playoffs, I think major changes is coming, because you can't rely on one player.
100%, yeah.
Because if you sorry, Dan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you look at the situation in Wild, and now, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm losing it a little bit, but I don't think I am. I don't think the Wild did anything crazy at trade deadline.
No.
So you look at it now, okay? Go back to trade deadline, and Wild do something crazy like bring in Brock Nelson or something like that, and Kaprizov got injured. Maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation about the Wild.
And I want to point this out, too, here for you guys real quick. The Minnesota Wild on January 1st were 5 points behind the Winnipeg Jets.
Right, yep.
Wow.
5 points behind.
That's it.
They were 23-11-4 with 50 points, while the Winnipeg Jets were 27-11-1 with 55.
So what's the point difference now? They got, 85?
They have 85, and I got to pull it back up to today, but the Winnipeg Jets are around 100.
Yeah, I was going to say, 101 or 108? 103, sorry?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets currently have 102 points, 102. And the Minnesota Wild have 85.
Wow.
I just want to point that out. This is one of the biggest collapses we've seen in a long time.
So even if Minnesota switches into the playoff spot at this point, are you getting the Minnesota team from January, or are you getting Minnesota team from February and March into the playoffs?
What you're getting is a team that's going to get swept by the Golden Knights.
They're going to get, they're not getting out of the first round. That's what you're going to get.
But we need to get out of this segment because Chazzy needs his milk. He's trying to hold his composure, but that's why he hasn't been talking as much here. He's just like, man, I need my cow. So we're going to a quick break. We come back. We're going to get into some Toronto Maple Leafs talk and so much more right after this break. The Streakers Island podcast is here, baby. We're talking NHL, CFL, NFL, and of course, those grassroots sports and so much more. Make sure you tune in every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Welcome to the island. Welcome back, everyone, to the Streakers Island podcast. I got to say, I can see everyone.
I have a question, or can I add something in?
Yeah, go for it.
We forgot to mention, boys, earlier this week, give a congratulations out to the Women's World Team Curling Championship that they just won over the last weekend. What was significant about that in that game, which I learned after, was Canada defended their championship, but they have beat the lead skip from Switzerland, who owned the championship 4 years in a row prior. So turning of the torch over to the Canadian women. So kudos to them. Congratulations, and go Canada, go.
Nice work.
What, Chazzy? That was worth interrupting me.
There you go. There you go. Just want to add that because, we missed it the other night, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to get it in there on Thursday.
That was worth the interruption. And normally, if someone interrupts me, I just say cut, and we're going to start over.
I put up my hand.
You did.
He did. I will say Jacob and I watched the curling, and it's good stuff.
Oh, that championship match was pretty good.
I gotta say, if you have not, you know what? Even if you're looking for something to do, go to your local curling club.
Yeah.
And if you're a local curler, download the Streakers app, get your teams into the Streakers app, reach out to Chazzy, the CEO, because you know what I always say, if you had a problem with your iPhone, don't you wish you could go straight to the CEO instead of just going to the Apple store? Well, if you want to learn about the Streakers app, you can go to the Streakers CEO and Chazzy. Well, you can't go inside of Chazzy. He doesn't really like it when he tries to eat people. That's not his thing. He's not a zombie, and he's not the android sent by CyberLife. But let's get into the Toronto Blue Jays. And for anyone who can't, Dan's wearing his Blue Jays sweater.
Oh, nice sweater.
Dan, stand up and show everyone like it's a fashion show.
Blue Jays!
Okay,
Blue Jays, let's play.
Right in the spring training form.
So I do, as much as we don't spread hate on the Streakers Island podcast because you know what, islands are full of love, but I think this is going to be a very heated environment for the Jays versus the Orioles. You're going to have probably close to a sellout crowd, so near 40,000 people there.
Higher than that.
And it's going to be rocking. And it's going to be a very tough environment for Baltimore to come into. Like, we're seeing it in other sports, and we're going to see it in Toronto. I'd be really surprised if we don't see a heated environment. But
really? That bad?
Yeah. I think they're going to have lots of sody pops, and the fans are going to get pretty rowdy.
Yeah, the home openers, their crowds they get pretty jacked up.
They do.
Toronto's a world-class city, Bull, and I don't know if they're going to scoop down that level.
Anyways, how important is it for the Jays to get off to a strong start? I am going to say it is more important than taking off the belt after a good Thanksgiving dinner. It is so important for the Toronto Blue Jays to get off to a hot start because there's been so much controversy around that team. And if they, let's say, even it sounds dumb, losing the first series could be critical for them.
I agree.
Well, I saw a report there on March 20th saying the president's pretty confident in re-signing Vladdy, but are they actually talking?
I think we're going
exactly. It's going to be very important, but the team also has to score around Vladdy. So.
Well, yeah, and because you know what, we've talked about it on the show before, but the bullpen's not great. Yeah. That's the big question mark, and this team last year couldn't score runs. Wow. So, I'm going to continue to hammer this home. I think the first 30 games for the Jays are critical.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think you got to win 20 of the first 30, and if you don't, then you got to look into making changes. That's my 2 cents. Some people
I'm going to say the starting pitchers have to stay healthy.
Oh, 100%. I think the whole team has to stay healthy. They had way too many injuries last year. You know what it is, Chazzy? They don't drink as much milk as you do, and that's how you can stay healthy. You got strong bones.
Calcium and bones, yep. Yeah.
So let's get into who we think's going to win this game. Remember, if you want to play along with us, download the Streakers app, get into that booth. It's a lot of fun. So
track your progress. You're leading the island side. You're leading the island channel, are you not? Yeah. I think more for the bee puppet right behind you, though.
I'm just practicing all my victory poses for you guys since playing sports analyst.
I'm going to get you, Bo. More for your money, okay? People need more out for sports, okay? More for sports predictions.
Well, so I excel.
I'm catching up to you.
I excel. And
All
I
right,
think the
what are we
Jays,
picking? What are we picking
Blue
for
Jays are
baseball?
gonna excel, and they're going to take down Baltimore the first game of the year. They got their home crowd there. They're going to win this game not just for their team but for their country.
Yeah.
Chazzy,
Jays home opener. Got to go with the
Yeah.
Jays home opener. It's going to be tough though. Baltimore's
Jays all the way. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Baltimore was a good team last year, so I don't think
They're
it's going
good
to be
again.
a complete cakewalk. But Jays all the way.
Nothing's
hopefully they don't
changed
eat a
in
bunch of
Baltimore. They're still good.
Now, hopefully they don't eat a bunch of cake, actually, because if they do, then they can't have their cake and eat it too. But I do have some props.
Cake!
Oh, props. What are we doing?
All right. Will the Jays starting pitcher throw at least 85 pitches? Or is he going to get pulled out early? This is a big
I
problem.
don't think he's on a pitch count. I'm going to say yes.
Dan, yes or no? 85 pitches or more.
I think I want to test out the bullpen early in the season, so I'm going to say no.
Okay. Will the
Well,
Jays
let's
score?
face it. You know, both of you have been criticizing the bullpen all off season, so let's get them in there early and see what they're made of them.
Okay.
That's like saying game one, the Capitals should have scratched Ovechkin to prove they have secondary scoring. Anyways, speaking of scoring, will the Jays score at least 5 runs?
No.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes.
No.
Yes.
Will Vladdy Guerrero Jr. shut up the critics and hit a home run?
Yes.
I think he'll have a good game. I don't think he'll hit one. No.
Oh.
I'm also going to say no on the home run. He's going to get a couple RBIs, but I think he's changed his hitting to be more singles and doubles than always aiming for the big shot. Dan wants to throw his pen at his brand new camera.
I think he's going to hit a grand slam.
They'll be interesting on the whole
We got to hit
season.
more than 5. What?
It'll be interesting on the whole season with some of these hitters that used to hit for yard. Will they hit for average this year?
We got the cloud. We did have a cloud bug moment last episode. But Dan, I'm very glad you don't create the props. You'd be like, will the bullpen throw 7 innings to prove a point?
Grand slam, home run.
All right, but we're all taking the Jays. Dan thinks the Jays are going to score 26 runs, apparently.
No, not that many, but they hit more than 5. And the grand slam is 4. So they got, you know.
We'll see who's on that leaderboard by Monday morning.
It's going to be May. However, I want to move to another team in baseball that has been facing a lot of heat, and that is the New York Yankee Fries, which, by the way, New York Fries also has pretty good hot dogs.
We got to talk to our friend Peter about that. He's the ultimate Yankee fan.
Which I think he would believe their GM deserves this book.
No, he talks about Boof all the time being the circus.
Yeah, which is their GM and coach. Get right.
Oh, yeah, that's why he's both.
And how important is this season for this team? I think this season is huge. I think the Yankees, because they lost one of their best players, they have to be good. And
they have to win the division.
That's not good enough. The Yankees are becoming the Blue Jays of the MLB. We got the Blue Jays, the Cowboys, and now the Yankees.
You mean the Maple Leafs?
Yes. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I deserve the crumble now. But yes, I believe that the Yankees are becoming the Leafs of the MLB.
Yeah, but the Yankees can win in the playoffs.
Oh, look, it failed.
When was the last time they won a World Series?
That's okay. They played well last year, so hopefully they'll play
win a World
good
Series?
this year.
Did
They
they win a
lost
World
the
Series last year.
biggest
They made it
fail
deep.
ever.
Did they win a World Series?
Nope.
Well, they went deep. They'll win it this year, or be content.
Whoa!
For it. Contend for it.
Cloud.
Live on this.
You guys watch.
You're
You guys
predicting
watch.
the Yankees are going to win. I almost hit the Super Bowl. The MLB playoff champion, the World Series. You predicted that on March 27th.
Yeah, there we go. On the island anniversary and my
Well, then,
anniversary, there we go. The Yankees.
Chazzy, I'm assuming you think they're going to win their first game of the year against the Brewers.
Of course.
Dan, are they going to win?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also going to say yes, but I'm not going to project them to be World Series champions. I'm going to wait until at least March 29th before I try to make that bet. Sorry, Jazzy.
Well,
But-
Garrett will be back. I think he's only gone, what? Tommy John's only 4 months now, I think. Isn't it?
Wow.
Cole has Tommy John now?
Yeah. But as one season finishes, another one has ended, and the OHL playoffs are around the corner, starting up this week. And Bry Pup is coming back to us to tell us which series he's most excited to see for the first round.
Yeah.
Bry Pup here with the OHL playoffs about to start. The series I'm most excited about is the Brampton Steelheads taking on the Oshawa Generals. Should be a very exciting, very fast-paced series between two teams who finish near the top of the Eastern Conference standings. Back to the boys at the Streakers Island podcast.
I definitely agree with him right then. I said it the other night. That Oshawa series.
I
Say a good chat, Will.
Funny enough, it's interesting too. I can't remember which one of you. Chazzy, I believe you said the Oshawa Generals were your pick to make a run, and I said the Brampton Steelheads.
Yeah,
you did.
So
absolutely,
this
versus
series
Rory.
is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is a series that's definitely going to go 7 games.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm going to give you guys my pick though for a series that I'm really interested to watch, and that is going to be the Sudbury Wolves versus the Kingston Frontenacs. I think home ice advantage for Kingston is going to be huge.
Yeah.
But both Kingston and Sudbury have been struggling to close out the year. One of them have to get going again. And I actually think we could see an upset here with Sudbury. They're a team that plays very well in the playoffs usually. That barn in Sudbury is rocking. It is a fun place to go watch a hockey game. And I think Kingston's going to really struggle with some of the traveling there. Kingston's got a very weak penalty kill. Sudbury's got a pretty decent power play. I think this is a legitimate chance that I think I'm calling that for the upset out of the East in the first round.
Our friend Wyan would be very happy with that.
Indeed.
I think he's a season ticket holder, if I'm not mistaken.
So, Dan, what's your pick for the series that you're really looking forward to here?
I forget who they play, so that's pretty bad, but just being honest. I'm looking forward for the Barrie series because I think the Barrie, I agree with Bly Pup. Probably?
Niagara Ice Dogs.
Thank you. I agree with Bly Pup. In the last episode, I think Barrie could be a serious team to make a serious one. Barrie has made some pretty serious deep ones in the past, like third round. And they never really make it to the OHL final. So maybe this year is the year they do it. So I'm excited for that series to happen.
And Chazzy, which series are you looking forward to the most coming into the first round?
That Oshawa series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glover connection there.
So you know what?
I pegged Oshawa at the trade deadline.
You did, exactly.
So I'm going to stay consistent and
100%.
Until they fail, then I'll move on. But I'm interested to see what these Generals do.
I'm going to talk about one other series in the West because we've all been talking East. And you guys are going to think I'm absolutely insane. And I'm not saying this upset will happen, but it could. Owen Sound Attack versus London Knights.
I knew you would say
Carter George can go on a run like he did at the World Juniors. Yeah. They could beat the London Knights. Goaltending can win you a series. Mm-hmm. And if Carter George can play that phenomenal, and also, too, I would just love to see London go out first round. And I'm sorry, people who are from London. Number one, you have to live in London. That's tough. I'm kidding. I used to live in Sault Ste. Marie. It's not very exciting either. Although the Sioux Greyhounds is one of the more exciting barns to watch.
I gotta say, I would love to see a London Knights game in London. That what do they call it? Not Molson, is it?
Oh, Labatt? Is it called still the Labatt Center or something?
Labatt Center, yeah. That arena is awesome. The biggest arena in OHL, I know for sure, probably one of the biggest CHL. That would be a crazy arena.
Yeah, I definitely would like to make maybe the island will make a road trip to London. Who knows? But I will say I think that London Owen Sound series again. That's a long traveling distance where you could see some teams make some mistakes. And if Carter George can play as well as Carter George can play, I think there is a fighting chance, like the Fighting Irish, that you might see just maybe them getting it done.
We passed St. Patrick's Day, Jacob. You just missed that to fight the Irish.
I don't care. Okay. Here, call you like Dan. You literally look like an anime character. Your camera is so realistic.
Yeah. Thank you. 4K. Wow.
But Chazzy, you haven't said too much there. Do you think I'm out to lunch thinking that Owen Sound has a slim chance there?
Oh no, I absolutely do think they have a slim chance, but
Carter Jones.
That series could go to 7, right? So it could go either way.
Give me a percentage number. Percentage chance of the Owen Sound attack taking down the London Knights.
I'm going to say 65% chance.
Wow. Dan, what about you?
I think 87% chance that London's going to win.
I'm giving Owen Sound a 35.432% chance of winning that series. I like my decimal points.
That's why, like pie.
But remember, guys, put in your message us on who you think is going to take some series in the first round. We're going to be following the OHL very closely. But now I want to move on back to the NHL, and let's talk about the Leafs versus the Sharks game coming up. And again, make sure you download that Streakers app. It says it right there on your screen if you're watching this on YouTube. And if watch us on YouTube. We look very pretty.
Especially me in 4K. I'm like William Nylander.
You're definitely in 4K. 4K HD or something.
There is something that Leaf fans always worry about, and they didn't do it against the Flyers, but the Leafs do have a tendency to play down to their opponents. The San Jose Sharks, besides Celebrini, have not had a very good year. I will say that Celebrini is a hell of a player. But who are you taking? Chazzy, I'm going to start with you. Are you finally going to admit the Leafs are going to win a game, or are you sticking with the I hate Toronto Maple Leafs train and taking the Sharks?
Well, I won't go that extent, but they're in San Jose?
Yes.
They're going to be on the beach like we were. I'm going to take San Jose.
All right, Dan, are you taking San Jose? Or are you taking the Leafs?
I'm taking the Leafs, and I'm going to say the same as I did with Philly. I think it's going to be a blowout game again. I think the Leafs are getting rolling into a playoff mode. I think they're going to get the line chemistry going, and yeah, it's going to be a blowout.
They don't play long enough on a line to get the chemistry.
Well, that's why we got to keep trying, right?
And, I'm going to take the Leafs as well in this, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think San Jose, I don't think they're quite as bad as their record at times, and I think the Leafs will win this one, but it'll be tight just like the last time these two teams played.
I am shocked that Toffoli didn't get traded on the deadline, I got to say.
I think he has term, right? I think San Jose feels they need some they don't want to make the same mistake Chicago made with Bedard and give Celebrini literally nobody to play with.
Yeah, that's true.
But sticking with the Leafs here a little bit, where does Pacioretty fit back in this lineup when he's healthy? There's rumors he could be back by March 30th, which is coming up. So where do you put him? Dan, you're thinking second line?
Yeah, I really love the chemistry. No, let me finish. I love the chemistry that John Tavares and Pacioretty had at the beginning of the year. They're both veteran guys. They're both big. They both play physical. And in fact, the Pacioretty plays so physical, you got to give him a good amount of ice time. I think Bobby McMahon will be a great third-line player with Yonklo. And, I think, it gets tough, eh? But I think with Pacioretty and Robertson, it's definitely out.
So I disagree with you somewhat. I agree Robertson comes out of the lineup. Pacioretty should go to the third line and make that line Domi to the wing, Lawton center, Patches the other wing, and have a true grinding third line that can maybe put in a few goals here and there.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Third line, because Bobby McMahon, Nylander, and Tavares has been fun to watch.
Yeah, they've clicked really good.
McMahon and Nylander are fast. Tavares, he catches up eventually.
Yeah.
And when he does catch up, he's been playing at a really high level right now offensively.
JT of the 6.
I don't think you split that line up. The third line is still the line that I think needs a little bit of work.
Yeah.
So I think when Patches is healthy, that's where he slots into. And that brings me into Scott Lawton.
Right.
Now, Max Domi defended Scott Lawton quite a bit in the last post-game interview, saying he's playing great. And I mean,
I agree.
He's not, but if you watch him play, I don't think he's been as bad as everyone's going on. He's blocking shots. He's hitting. He's been good on the penalty kill. I liked him on the third line role playing of Domi. I thought him and Domi looked good together. But I think Leaf Nation and Chazzy, you've said this a lot about Leaf fans too. They just need to relax. Lawton will find his way. He's a good player. And I think Leaf Nation, and including the coaching, I like Berube, but I think he's been a little too trigger happy at changing the lines. I think you just got to leave Lawton where he is for a little bit and let him find his way. Like Craig, if you were Craig Berube, because you're both named Craig, so like be the same person. Would you continue to try to move Scott Lawton around, or would you keep him with Max Domi for maybe the next 3 or 4 games and see if they can build some chemistry?
You would hope that he would keep him, I guess, for the 3 or 4 games, but the way he's going, he's doing anything he wants to. He's obviously not found what he likes, or he's mixing around of other options, maybe in the playoffs, that he could juggle the lines if needed and what's worked in the past, so to get some of that intel through the season, so he's sort of benchmark himself. But yeah, he continues to mix the lines for a reason.
So I guess he's not happy with that. It'd be interesting to see if he changes the lines after that big win against the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
I would personally, if that's me, I'm leaving the lineup the same, and I'm actually giving Stolarz a second start in a row. I know he let in the 2 goals, so his save percentage wasn't great, but that was a really hard game to judge him by, because there was times he wouldn't face a shot for 10, 11 minutes, and then he'd face a 2-on-1 one-timer situation kind of thing. Yeah. So I think I'd want to see him play another game before I give Woe another start again. I know I said go 1-1-1-1, but that was a weird game for Stolarz, and I think you maybe let him get into a bit of a groove. Do you guys agree with me keeping the lines exactly the same for the Sharks, including goaltending?
Yeah, well, I agree with keeping the lineup the same. I think you want to give Joseph Woll a start against San Jose, because as much as I poke fun at Joseph Woll, you want his confidence to be up going into the playoffs, right? And you would hope in theory that San Jose will be an easy win. So,
because the Leafs they do play again on Saturday versus the Kings. So then you got the Kings and Ducks Saturday, Sunday, which that will be an interesting one too, to see kind of who they start versus the Kings versus who they start against the Ducks. That'll be telling again.
So I would play Woll. I would play Woll during San Jose, play Stolarz during the Kings, and play Woll again during the Ducks. I know technically means Woll getting more games, but you want to Stolarz against a stronger team.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally, I would play Woll against the Kings, and I'd save Stolarz. I would give Stolarz the game against the Ducks as a warm-up and get him into a groove to then play the Panthers on the following Wednesday.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Remember, the Leafs play the Panthers on the 2nd and the 8th of April, right? Those are 2 critical games for Toronto coming down the stretch. Yeah. And I'd want to give Stolarz the first one, because if it's a dumpster fire, then you can go to Woll for the next one.
Good call.
And Craig, I think you're just eating the popcorn, looking at Leaf fans just spinning their tires for no reason.
They're just getting nervous.
But you know who should be nervous? The Edmonton Oilers. I think this is the team that should be nervous right now.
I agree.
As we're recording right now, they're losing 4-0 to the Stars.
Ouch.
That's not good. So let's say hypothetically they lose that game. They continue to stay behind the Kings. And they barely beat the Kraken on Saturday. And that's the thing, too. They had a pretty good break Saturday to Wednesday, right? And they barely beat the Kraken on that Saturday. They had quite a few days off, and now they're getting smoked by the Stars. Edmonton, it's really showing without the star power of McDavid and Draisaitl. There's really not much there. You got Stuart Skinner, who's allowed 4 goals on 20 shots so far. Again, we haven't seen the goals, but they are out shooting Dallas. They have 28 shots on Ottinger.
And Paul Peter Moravic's in Detroit.
Jason Robertson's got a hat trick against Stuart Skinner here. So I'm worried for Edmonton. Not so much for the start of the playoffs, but for closing out the regular season with momentum. Because McDavid and Draisaitl probably won't be back for this week. That's what we're hearing. And we're hearing Draisaitl's a little ahead of McDavid. So let's say hypothetically you don't get either one of these guys back for your next 2 games.
So do we know the injuries? Do we know their injuries, sorry?
Or
just lower body? I
believe they're just both labeled as lower body injuries.
I think so too, yeah.
But Edmonton should be able to beat the Kraken without these guys. But then they play the Flames. That's going to be a tough game. It's a battle of Alberta, and it's a battle of Alberta that means something late at the end of the season. And they might not be back for Tuesday, April 1st against the Golden Knights.
Yeah, well,
I'm legitimately concerned for Edmonton.
Yeah.
And this is the problem when you don't have the goaltending to bail you out when your star power is injured.
Yeah,
So you do have Trent Frederick, who's injured as well, and that's really hurt them. I think they thought he'd be someone who would kind of fill the gap with the depth on this team. But at the same time, the goaltending has just not been good enough. And I said this I said this going into the deadline. They needed to improve the goaltending.
100%.
And they just went, meh. Yeah, so I said it was an undisclosed injury, and Connor McDavid's a lower body injury. John Klingberg is out. Trent Frederick with a lower body injury. Evander Kane will miss the remainder of the season. So that's you look at that. That is a lot of your offense between McDavid, Draisaitl, Frederick, and Kane out.
Yeah.
And when you lose,
and even Klingberg on the back end, he's offensive.
And Klingberg, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised Klingberg's hurt again. I don't think he'll play again in the NHL. I think he's kind of a hawk and paw situation.
That's sad.
But when I look at Edmonton, I don't see the depth there. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with me, but I really am worried about this team going down the stretch, because losing home ice to the Kings could end up really biting them in the butt.
I'm really surprised because of last year they did that big trade to get that center I really like. Starts with an 8. Help me.
Henrique?
Thank you, Henrique. When they got Henrique, I really thought getting Henrique was the missing piece of his team. And when they got in free agent and they got Jeff Skinner, well, I thought, okay. And you got Corey Perry. He's had, again, a really nice year up in his 40s. And so you look at Victor Arvidsson, another great player they got in free agents. And then you got Connor Brown's playing a lot better. You picked up Kapanen off waivers. You say Wyatt Nugent-Hopkins was a 100-point guy. So when you look at all those players, you would think in theory, even though McDavid and Draisaitl was 30% of your offense, on paper of almost great players, they should be able to score some goals, right? Like Arvidsson's been a 30-goal scorer. Henrique was a 50-point guy. Nugent-Hopkins, the Moose. Oh, I'm thinking Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman was a 50-goal scorer at one point. Like, okay, I get they lost the best players in the NHL, but they still got some great depth players. So I don't know why they're this bad. I agree with Jacob. It all comes down to goaltending. You can't really blame, the offense because they got really deep offense.
Now, I do want to mention a guy that they decided that wasn't worth keeping and they lost to restricted free agency. Dan, whoa, that was terrifying if you knew camera when you got that close. But Dylan Holloway, who, mind you, at Edmonton in 38 games last year had 6 goals, 3 assists for 9 points. But everyone kept saying, including myself, this before we had the Streaker Iron podcast, I'm like, this kid's going to be special. Currently in St. Louis, he's got 24 goals, 36 assists, 60 points, and a plus 18.
Wow.
He's got 6 power play goals and 13 power play points. That's the depth you're missing.
Yeah.
Right there. If you have Dylan Holloway in your lineup, and there's another guy that the Blues got too, and I can't remember his name, but that's not important since I don't remember. Self-proclaimed analyst, that means this name's just more important. That is such a huge deal breaker because guys like Jeff Skinner and these other players they brought in, and Victor Arvidsson and these guys, they're not impacting the lineup the way they were hoping they would.
Yeah, shocking.
And they might have been better just to keep the depth players they had.
Ooh.
Right? Because you look, Dylan Holloway was a big piece of this team.
Yep.
Even in the playoffs, he had 7 points in 25 games. You got to remember, he was a 4th liner for Edmonton in that playoff run.
Well, look how they lost Vogel to Los Angeles. Vogel's having a great year in LA.
Yeah, and I don't get it too. When there were in free agency, there were good goalies available for relatively affordable. You look at Toronto getting Stolars.
Yep.
You look at Detroit, they got 18,000 mediocre goalies that Edmonton could have used.
James Weimer was available.
I was going to say that. I go to Buffalo and go to Optimus Rhymes. He could be. I don't think Edmonton needs a Vezina goalie, but they need decent.
Skinner.
Both Skinner and Pickard are not. They're not good enough.
No disrespect to Pickard, but he's an AHL goalie.
Like, Chazzy, what are your thoughts on Edmonton here? Are you concerned? about them potentially losing home ice first round of the playoffs.
Oh, and absolutely when we have a white hot Kings nipping at them. Yeah, I had a lot of high hopes for the Oilers this year, so I'm definitely concerned. And I don't know, maybe the Leon and Connor can come back and they get some sort of momentum. But let's see how the Kings react here down the stretch. And I don't know, maybe you get the Kings coming down on their high, and Oilers can sort of like grab some momentum with their pair of weapons back in the lineup. I don't know.
Well, and that's the whole thing, right? Like Edmonton could easily go on a hot run the way they've gone on this cold stretch. But will LA continue to stay hot? And at one point we were talking about Edmonton winning the division so they could avoid playing the Kings in the first round. That's not, I don't think that's happening now.
No,
right? I think they're gonna have to go through the Kings, and this Kings team is a better team than they were last year.
But Edmonton's beaten the Kings quite a few times, so you would think
the Kings are a better team this year than last.
True.
Because of Darcy Kemper, which again, we'll talk more about that in another episode, but he has been the main difference maker for the Kings.
Yeah.
But you know what was a main difference maker in eras of hockey? Crosby and Ovechkin. And we asked you, the viewers, for our first ever 1v1, who would be victorious? We haven't thought of a prize yet. Right now, the winner just gets this empty bottle of Powerade that I drank earlier while I was editing. So I win. Because Crosby got 10 votes between all our platforms and Ovechkin got 8.
Close.
It was close. So
I guess instead of you that extra few seconds I had.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. That's all your fault. But we have a new 1v1.
Oh,
and now Craig has challenged me. Craig, you're trying to take down the self-proclaimed sports analyst. I think you're just upset that I have a better winning percentage, and you want to take me down in the 1v1. So, for everyone knows, Matthew Knies' contract is coming up. He has replaced Zach Hyman on that top line, and I say he's done it better than Zach Hyman and is the missing piece. Chazzy disagrees with me completely and says Zach Hyman is better than Matthew Knies. So we are going to, I thought I'd let the viewers know, Dan does not know cell phones have stopwatches on them.
I just learned that.
So he can't even find his.
I won't need the full minute.
Oh,
Point.
That one's a step
in. Sassy boy. But so then, Chazzy, I will even let you decide. Would you like me to go first, or would you like to go first?
Oh, I'll go first.
You will go. Oh, wow. You don't know how rap battles work at all. But that's okay, Chazzy, let me know when you're ready. And whenever you're ready, I will start the timer.
Okay, so I will just start off with Hyman brought a level of consistency to the Leafs that they lacked at the time he was on the team. He was a great two-way player, showed grit, and his contribution on both ends of the ice, not just on one end. He showed that he could play on multiple lines, and he could step up in those different moments that he needed to be and contribute. So he wasn't that pure sniper, but in that offensive player role, his ability to complement stars on that top line when needed. But the biggest thing was he was that two-way player that was a difference maker that the Leafs needed at that time.
You only used 46 seconds.
Oh, close. Okay, longer than I thought.
However, I will say you made some very good points. You're wrong, but you made some very good points. So I will go. And the reason why I say Matthew Knies, he is 22 years old. He is bigger. He is more physical. He is only one of the 3 players in the NHL to have at least 25 goals and 150 hits. He has added that contribution. And you talk about Zach Hyman can play up and down your lineup. Matthew Knies plays power play and penalty kill. He is a guy that has been the missing piece for Matthews and Marner this season. With Matthews not scoring as much this year, Matty Knies has picked up the slack. And when you look at him year by year, you're seeing progression. Knies last year in 80 games had 15 goals. This year in 67 has 25. He is progressing. He's got 4 power play goals. Last year, he had no power play goals. He has a shorthanded point. He went from playing 13 and a half minutes a game to 18 and a half minutes per game. This guy's young. He's getting better and better, and that is why he is the true difference maker for the Toronto Maple Leafs over Zach Hyman. 59 seconds.
Oh!
4-1. So, who do you want to pick? Make sure you download the Streakers app. You'll see the 1v1 challenge, and let us know who you think deserves the winner of the 1v1. Matthew Nyes or Zachary Hyman?
Okay, all I'll say there is, yes, he has a bright future. He's got potential. But Hyman's presence in that lineup gave the Leafs an identity, like that hard-nosed sort of play and leadership is what I'm saying. So, Knives, being young, he hasn't proved that yet. So he has the opportunity to step into that. So we'll see.
I'd like to ask, who helped the Leafs win a round? Matthew Nyes, not Zach Hyman.
Win one round?
They won a round. They won a round.
And what did Hyman do in Edmonton?
Go to the Cup final. That's the point.
Yeah.
However, Zach Hyman.
Where's my microphone?
What?
Zach Hyman has taken a huge decline this year.
Put that goes into my scoring. That goes under my scoring thing. Make sure the crowd sees that.
However, I am going to counter with I agree Zach Hyman adds veteran presence and leadership, but this year he's got 25 goals and 42 points in 64 games. Last year he had 54 goals. He's on a decline, not an incline. Because if you look, he had 36 goals he had 26 goals in first year at Edmonton, then 36, then 54. Everyone thought this year, Hyman's going to get 100 points. He's going to be a big guy this year. He's not even averaging a point per game, and he's only a plus 14 versus the year before he was a plus 36. I agree Zach Hyman's a great player. I think Matty Nyes is better. That is my 2 cents, and we're going to leave it there. But let's move on now to the Canadian Football League, because we have so much in the show this week. We're not even taking a second break. Chazzy, I'm sorry, you're not getting your milk. And maybe you still have some. I don't know if you have a bar fridge.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
getting low.
4 liters of milk. You might.
I got
Never
like a
know
sip or two left.
Never know.
I think he got a cow beside the putting green.
A sip or two.
So let's talk about the best running backs in the CFL right now. And when I think of the best running backs in the CFL, there's 3 guys that come to mind. Brady Oliveira, Kadeem Carey, and William Stanback. So, Dan, out of those 3, who do you think is the best running back in the CFL? I'm going to see if you're biased.
I know where he's going to go.
Brady Oliveira, statistically, is the best running back. There's no denying that. And he is the youngest. So, in theory, he's the one you're going to want because you're going to build around it. However, when it comes to a dressing room characteristic, I like Kadeem Carey. He's a very character guy. He still gives you 1,000+ yards in the season. So it depends what you're building in a team. Are you going to use your running back as your franchise player, or are you going to use your running back as a great support system?
You know what?
I thought you were expecting that.
No, I thought you'd say Kadeem Carey, but your argument makes more sense. You're wrong.
No.
Because, I love Kadeem Carey. He was a huge part of Toronto last year, especially when Chad Kelly missed the first half. But Brady Oliveira is not just the best running back in the league. He's the best player. He won the mop.
Well,
the most outstanding player.
Because Chad Kelly wasn't playing.
He won it because he should have, in my opinion, he could have won it. I'm not saying should have. He could have won it the year before as well. I think Chad Kelly and Brady Oliveira are a toss-up for best players in the league currently. Plus, Brady Oliveira is Canadian, and he's got that leadership. I think if you ran the ball more against Toronto in the Grey Cup, I think there's a very good chance you win that game. Because Brady Oliveira is a guy that can just find ways to get scrappy yards.
Yeah.
Right? And that was something Winnipeg was really missing in that Grey Cup game. You might have heard a boom. My laptop was almost dead, so I quickly threw in the charger. But I do want to give a shout out to William.
That's why I leave mine plugged in all the time.
I do want to give a shout out to William Stanback. He's bounced around a couple different teams and is now heading to the Ottawa Redblacks this season. Okay, I don't know why him going to Ottawa is so funny.
This Ottawa.
But
No,
William
he said that he plugs his microphone in.
I'm glad
His
it's
laptop. His laptop.
Oh yeah, Dan never unplugs his laptop.
Never. But it never dies.
It also just overcharges and kills your battery, but that's okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I'll unplug it.
No,
Which
Dan,
one's the unplug?
no.
Oh.
Okay. Well, Dan learns that plugs exist. I will say why I think William Stanback is in this conversation, because I think a lot of people are like, why are you saying William Stanback? You could go James Butler out in BC. You could go Dedrick Mills over in Calgary. There's a lot of really Greg Bell in Hamilton. There's a lot of really good running backs in this league. Kevin Brown, who had a bad year last year, but the year before was dominant. Javon Leake, another guy. But William Stanback is a true veteran, and he's a guy that makes a huge difference in a club. And I think he is a guy that in Ottawa is going to make a big impact. He was a big reason why Montreal won the Grey Cup the year they did. I think BC should have used him more, especially when Nathan Rourke was really, really struggling.
Yeah.
And William Stanback is a phenomenal running back. So I think those are my top three. Oliveira 1, Carey 2, Stanback 3. But week to week, honestly, that could flip-flop week to week. These are three of the best running backs in the CFL. Superstar talent. Take that, Ed Harvey.
Yeah.
But you know who might be coming to the NHL? And Chad,
Is this true? Is that
It
just
is.
looking at this now? Is this true?
Trey
Wow.
Lance has now been
What?
added to the Saskatchewan Roughriders negotiation list.
Wow.
Which means if he comes to the CFL, he would have to come to Saskatchewan, and no other team has. He basically, the Rough Riders
Why is that?
own the rights to Trey Lance
Why is that? How did Saskatchewan get his rights?
because there's you can add so many players to your negotiation list, and whoever adds them first wins. They win the banana
So they had intel on him wanting to come to CFL?
potentially, and actually, I think Trey Lance would be a great fit in the CFL. Fast guy, bigger field, quarterbacks less in the pocket, more on the run. And let's be honest, I don't know if he's ever going to throw a ball in a regular season game in the NFL right now. So we have him come to the CFL for a year, come to a team where Trevor Harris is your starter, who's had injury problems. When he's healthy, he's great, but when he's
Well,
injured,
because he's older, right?
he's old. He's an old
Who has him right now in the NFL? Is it Dallas?
Cowboys.
Dallas.
And they are still set on, yeah, here we go. Which even made Cooper Rush do that. I feel so bad for Cooper Rush that he's got to do that. He looks so like awkward when he yells, yeah, here we go, like Dak Prescott.
I give Cooper Rush a lot of credit. I thought he played well.
I thought he did too. But clearly Trey Lance is not going to get a shot in Dallas. So if they cut him to save salary, I could see him coming to the CFL.
Wow.
He might
You
get
don't see anyone else picking him up.
No, I don't.
Wow.
Because the NFL, we look at the quarterback landscape and there's less and less spots available. Well, we just saw Russell Wilson go to the Giants.
Yeah.
So we now know the Steelers. I did. I'm very smart. That's why I'm
So hold on. So I thought Rodgers signed with Pittsburgh, but he hasn't signed with Pittsburgh.
He hasn't signed yet. He's just been there a lot. I guess he just likes their nachos. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is a weird dude. I know you guys love him and you want to take him out for drinks and become best friends with him and walk on the beach together. But I am not
I don't
quite.
think he drinks. Does he drink?
He doesn't even drink. He drinks his tree bark.
Well, he does something that I can't say on the podcast. We're just going to say he likes to have a cold one. But
Wow.
But what I was surprised of Russell Wilson too, he was guaranteed $10 million.
Yeah.
So they're giving him some decent money guaranteed.
Like,
Could make up to $20 million. So would you guys agree with me that Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are kind of in that similar area right now? They're not as good as they once were, but they're still good starting quarterbacks.
yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They're still dangerous. Yes.
So does this just mean we saw what Aaron Rodgers is worth?
It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what he signs for. I think he'll get more than 10 million. No.
I think so too.
I don't. Russell
Really?
Wilson led a team to the playoffs. What did Aaron Rodgers do?
Won 5 games.
What did Russell? I wonder what Russell got in when he was in Pittsburgh. What is sort of short?
It was a prove-it contract. It was very low.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was. Yeah.
where Russell Wilson, I feel he
I'm going to say he's
well.
around 20. I'd say around the 20 mark.
I'm thinking around 25.
You look at Russell Wilson, completed just under 64% of his passes, 2,482 yards, 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions.
Pretty good.
Pretty decent numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I think Aaron Rodgers, statistically is comparable, except the difference is Russell Wilson was able to win some more games. Now, mind you, Aaron Rodgers played more games than Russ did, but 63% completion, 3,897 yards. Again, he played more games. 28 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. QB ratings both around 90.
Still pretty good.
There's also rumors of Pittsburgh making some major changes with a few of their stars.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh's sick and tired of going out first round.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought
When you bring in Rodgers, he's got a lot of pressure. That's a passionate fan base down in Pittsburgh.
A friend Barkley is a Pittsburgh fan.
I mean, yeah, he is. And the Steelers have been a team that they make the playoffs every year, but they don't really do much once they're there.
Yeah.
So I think they're looking to be better.
Yeah.
I don't know if Aaron Rodgers really makes them any better than what Russ did.
I give him credit for trying something different.
I don't know. I'm not sold just yet.
Well, you'll never be sold on Rodgers. You don't like him.
Wow. Like Pittsburgh last year was 10-7, which isn't bad between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Like
the Jets were bad.
Yeah.
They did not play well. I believe they won 5 games.
Right. Yeah.
2-7 on the road, 3-5 at home.
Now at the end of the year, the guy gave up.
So unless Trey Lance goes to the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are kind of your last 2 landing spots at teams that are really looking for QBs, I feel like. I feel like other teams have depth, have young studs that they want to use.
Right, yep, true. Now, someone like Lance or Rodgers, do you see them come in after week 3 or 4 of the young guns struggle at the beginning?
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is willing to wait that long. I think if he doesn't get signed, he'll just do a podcast.
Maybe he'll come on the island with us.
I hope not.
But I kind of do like Diggs in New England. Makes sense with Drake May there.
The only thing I don't
if he doesn't get hurt though,
and if he can keep his mouth shut.
Yeah,
we all know that he's a problem. He was a problem in Buffalo. And if a young quarterback like Drake May, I don't know if giving him a receiver with that much attitude is going to help.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought the Bills were going to bring Diggs back, and I have no idea why people thought that.
Because you're losing Cook.
They're not the same position, Dan.
I get that, but you need a big player of Allen.
Josh Allen is the big player. They just paid him all that money. He's got to do it on his own now.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get more, to be honest.
Less is more, like a Sharman. But yeah, I do agree with you, Chazzy. I do like that the Patriots are trying to build some players around Drake May. I think Drake May showed the Pats enough. I get their record sucked at 4-13, but I do feel Drake May is their guy for the future.
Yeah.
And I actually, in limited sample and limited playing time he got in New England last year, I thought he looked good.
Yeah.
He gave that team some hope, at least. Was able to move the ball downfield and score some points, even if it wasn't enough points, because it never was.
Yeah.
At least, you felt some hope, and bringing in a big weapon like that could be a big difference maker.
Yeah. This NFL season is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a good season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more open, and I think, too, fans are more optimistic after not seeing the Chiefs three-peat, that they feel this is a more open year this year.
Yeah, I agree.
But unfortunately, we have to call it a day. But before we do, Dan always likes to give us a mindset, even though he doesn't write in the script. So I never know if he has one or not. But I believe he does have one tonight. So Dan, what is your island mindset?
It was not a complete surprise, as we were talking about off camera a little bit. But, There's a lot of heat and energy going on with our neighbors at the moment. And the end of the day, you gotta love your neighbor, you know? You gotta go out there with open hugs and open hearts and help each other out. And you gotta remember, just because of a couple people in power doesn't mean that everyone in that side agrees with them, right? So love your neighbor, be respectful, help out your neighbor when you can, and make this world a better place.
I do want to start off by saying if our neighbors are watching the show, our neighbors are great.
Yeah.
So there's no hate
Your
from our
neighbors.
neighbors. Chazzy, I'm assuming your neighbors are lovely people. I've never
Absolutely.
met them, but I'm sure they're lovely. But you know what else is lovely? Going to bed. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching the Streakers Island podcast. Look for more Streakers Island content. Make sure you follow us on all the social medias and download the Streakers app and play along with us in our sports booth and check out the new 1v1 section in the app. You are going to have so much fun that you will never leave the bathroom. It's the best bathroom app on the market, guaranteed. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you maybe this weekend.
Oh.
I want to go live again, boys, because I like going live. I'm getting this close to the camera.
Well, I guess we don't have a choice. It's Shakeups of Boston, the Highway.
But thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Dan needs to get a tissue. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.